Well, good morning. Welcome to LoveBabz, LoveTalk on Babz Rose Ivy. This morning I get to talk to Rino Ferrarese. Is that how you
Close,
pronounce that?
that's close enough. Thank you. Yes.
Okay. You can come on screen if you want.
You really want to see my face? I have a face for radio.
That's all right. We all do. So Reno is here today to talk about Connecticut's cannabis industry. But you own a cannabis company, don't you?
I'm one of the partners, one
One of
of
the
the smaller
partners.
partners.
Is
Yes.
it what is it, Affinity? Affinity Growers?
Affinity Grow in Portland.
Okay. All right. How long have you been doing this?
I started with another operator, one of the original producers back in 2013. And an employee there, and I worked my way up to a pretty senior position over from 2013 until 2023. And
Mhm.
I left there as president of the company, and then went and started Affinity Grow in Portland.
Okay. So is the cannabis industry thriving in Connecticut, or do we have too
No.
many barriers?
Or do we have to be what? I'm sorry?
Do we have too many barriers?
We have a lot of barriers. Yes, I have to be careful. I have to give lots of love and props to the Department of Consumer Protection. They've got a tough job. I don't envy them, and the Social Equity Council is doing a bang up job. Brandon and the team there, exceptional people. It's just I can't remember the Greek mythology guy who rolls the rock up the mountain every day. Sisyphus, I think it was.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. I understand their plight. So we're here to do whatever we can to help them, but we need to do something drastic to try to keep up or catch up with Massachusetts and New York, who are both billion-dollar markets right now.
So what are they doing that we're not doing?
I think well, no, I know. I mean, you could go to a Massachusetts dispensary or a New York dispensary, and you go in, it's fun. It's a positive experience. You can see the packaging, you could talk about the products. You can look at a display case and actually see packaging for products that's designed to market and appeal to consumers. And so I would go in. So if I go into a Connecticut dispensary, I'm going to purchase a flower. All the packaging looks the same. So I fixate on THC, maybe terpenes. Versus when you go to New York, you're looking at the packaging, you're like, oh, that's a cool box, it's a cool bottle, and suddenly the THC and the terpenes become secondary. You're shopping based on market appeal, like you would if you
Mm.
went to Marshalls or TJ Maxx or something. Something appeals to you, buy it.
So why are we set up this way?
So there is, I think it's a misunderstanding. That's my personal opinion. I don't speak for anybody but myself. I think that there's a concern that certain colors appeal to children, and that children, would be attracted to the products. Now, the Connecticut products, they're in child-resistant packaging. Children can't open the packages, and but I don't know if there have been any studies to determine which colors appeal to children most. But I caution, anybody sort of in embarking on that sort of journey, because if you look at poison control, sort of the so poison control reports phone calls, and the majority of those phone calls are for poisonings from detergents, household cleaners, over-the-counter medicine. That's number one thing that kids are ingesting. Fabuloso, lemon pledge. These are chemicals that have, they're lots of different colors. They have fruits on the label. They have artificial scents, and kids are definitely attracted to those products, but we're not putting child resistant mandates on them. Same thing with batteries. Batteries hurt children all the time. They swallow them, the little disc batteries, or magnets, but we're not doing child resistant requirements for those products. I think it's because it's cannabis, and we grew up in the age of prohibition, so everyone is still a little nervous. But I ask you this, when you watch the Super Bowl, you see a Bud Light commercial, right? They have the Bud Bowl. Children can see the Bud Bowl, but in Connecticut, we don't want children seeing a billboard that advertises a dispensary when they're driving by on the highway.
Mhm.
So,
Well, I mean, listen, I mean, we came through sort of this with cigarettes, right? The
mhm,
marketing of like grown people don't start smoking, children start smoking, and then they grow into being adults who smoke. I don't know
sure.
any 40-year-old or 30-year-old who starts smoking at 30, 40, 50 years old. You really start when you're, a teenager with your friends because it's a taboo kind of thing, and you want to fit in a little bit. So I can understand that a little bit. So is there some new talk to me about the new legislation that's happening, and does that help? Is the new legislation, because the session just ended? Is there some new legislation that makes sense to you or help this industry in Connecticut?
Um, um, I'm sure it helps some people. I'm sure it helps some people. There's definitely been some changes related to testing and packaging. There were some rights granted to certain license groups, and so those were necessary changes. So we're happy to see those changes happen, but nothing really material happened as far as packaging and labeling or anything that's going to sort of help us to compete with, with Massachusetts or New York. We Connecticut banned billboards about a couple of years ago, I think. But if you still go up on Route 84, there are probably a half a dozen billboards, maybe four. I don't want to exaggerate. Four billboards for a Massachusetts dispensary, and it's right along 84, right after Yukon, and you're driving up to Mass and you see these billboards. And at first, the billboards were advertising a dispensary. And then Connecticut said, well, you can't advertise dispensaries. So they took the word dispensary down and they wrote the word apparel on their billboard. So it was
Apparel.
apparel. Yeah, 'cause I guess they sell shirts there. And so now they still have their billboards up. And I don't know what iteration they're on now with how they're marketing, how clever they're being to continue to market their brand. But we can't do that. So it's difficult to sort of let people know where we are, that we're here in the state and we have good products and people should try them.
So cannabis dispensaries here can't advertise.
No.
What do you mean?
So okay, so billboards, there are no billboards anymore. There is a marketing guideline that the department publishes, and there are strict requirements. Like there needs to be certain disclosures on the on any printed ads, but it's restrictive. It's we can't advertise on the radio. We can't mailers that go to people's homes. We have to be careful how we basically set up those ads. So it's overseen, and I understand it. I don't want my family getting flooded with cannabis advertisements from all over the state, but just a little bit to let people know where the businesses are and sort of let folks know that we have over 70 dispensaries now in the state. Did you know that?
No. So how are you supposed to find a dispensary? Is this just like if you know, you know, if you know people who know people? Like, how
So
does this work?
Google works. So you can Google it, and so you'll see they'll come up on a Google search, and then there are industry specific applications like our iHeart Jane will get you to dispensaries or yeah, apps like that, sort of cannabis focused or cannabis centric applications. But it's
So,
it's not really like shouting it from the rooftops. It's not like Massachusetts did when they first launched their program.
tell me about y'all. The cannabis community now has an ombudsman. What
Yep.
what are they what are they charged with doing? I mean, I know what an ombudsman do, but why did y'all need this?
So the ombudsman was in response. It's highly political on how the position came to be, but we have a wonderful person, Erin. Erin Kirk is she's an attorney. She's very, very bright. She's passionate and motivated, and she knows the plant. and she's really cool to talk to. So I can't, show enough love and respect for Erin and the job that she's doing. But essentially, there was concern that when we headed into adult use, that the medical patients would be, left behind, would be forgotten. There used to be a an organization called the Academy of Dispensaries, and it was basically a coalition of all of the pharmacists that managed the dispensaries back when we were just a medical state. And the pharmacists would get together, maybe it was every month or every 2 months, and they would talk about, sort of the challenges they faced in the industry, how to improve things. I remember one of the things that academy did was, they were actually a subdivision of the Connecticut Pharmacists Association, the CPA. But the Academy brought the producers in. I was one of the producers and said, the naming convention, the way you name your products, it would really benefit us if you listed the strain name and then like the class, it's a flower with the NDC code and the potency. And so they, help standardize basically how the naming on the labeling happened, and little details that you don't really think about, but you have to organize those details to sort of have a cohesive program. And so now we don't have that association since disbanded, unfortunately. And now Erin has stepped up and she acts. So that pharmacist organization also acted on behalf of the patients. So Erin now sort of is a proxy for that sort of relationship. We still have pharmacists in the state at hybrid dispensaries and medical. But Erin's sort of like more directly involved with the patients, not as a pharmacist.
Okay.
Sorry for the
So
long-winded
Reno,
answer.
talk to me about now, because I don't know anything about dispensaries, but I see a lot of smoke shops, and smoke shops are not allowed to be dispensaries, but they call themselves smoke shops because they sell tobacco and cigars. Because we just saw some get busted for peddling a little weed. So what is the story here?
Yeah, so that's been so in 2018 the Farm Bill was passed. That was Mitch McConnell, basically for the American farmer through the United States Department of Agriculture. They published the US Farm Bill, and that enabled farmers to grow hemp, which
Okay.
is cannabis sativa. It's the same stuff that we grow, except that it has a very low amount of THC. It has less than 0.03% THC. Over the years, loopholes were discovered and exploited, and now that hemp bill is basically the enabling legislation that allows uh, lots of farmers to ship THCA, which is THC. I'll spare you the chemistry, but it's the same thing. So essentially, these farmers are shipping THCA hemp, and they call it high THC hemp. They're shipping it across the country. They're selling it online. They're selling it into smoke shops. And a lot of attorney generals, and hats off to Attorney General uh, Tong here in Connecticut for pursuing the vape shops who are illegally selling cannabis products. Those products are not tested. They're misbranded because they didn't go through testing at a Connecticut laboratory. They are not, manufactured under the regulations of the Connecticut Department of Consumer Protection. But to the average consumer, they were walking into a smoke shop. Well, this guy's selling cannabis. He wouldn't sell it if it wasn't legal, right? Because otherwise he'd be arrested. So of course I can buy it. So there was a big crackdown. It took a little while though to set up the laws so that that the it was in 2018 and 2019, nobody kind of knew what was going on. Nobody sort of understood um, what was happening. I'm sure the attorneys did, but there was a lot of taking advantage of. And then COVID hit. And then after COVID, sort of things took on a life of their own. And suddenly we had this high THC hemp phenomenon, which still goes on, by the way. You see it in package stores. You can buy THC beverages,
Oh,
right? Huge category, huge, biggest, largest growing adult beverage category in the sector, and is growing rapidly. I want to say it's 10% of adult beverages, and growing every day. But basically, you can go into a package store and buy high THC beverages. It's 5 milligrams of THC, and you go home and drink it, and you can get high from it. And
so
that's
why is that allowed? Why is that permitted?
because that's through the Farm Bill. Because the growers are starting with hemp, and
Oh.
that's what they're doing.
Does the Connecticut cannabis community have their own lobbyist interest? Like, how do y'all talk to the legislator? Do y'all individually, or is there a collective body?
So there are several, and then a lot of companies have their own lobbyists, and a lot of the big multi-state operators have their own lobbyists as well. So the main organizations, the producers have an association. That's the original four growers in Connecticut. They have representation, as well as the Connecticut Cannabis Chamber.
Hmm.
And they're a wonderful organization that was sort of born right around the time that adult use launched, maybe about a year before. And they've done a bang up job working with that's Adam Wood and his team there. Basically working with the Social Equity Council, working with the legislature to really sort of work with the social equity businesses to sort of navigate their way through the onerous process that is, getting a cannabis license operational in the state of Connecticut. It's just a lot of details. It's not onerous. It's just there are a lot of details.
Is it hard to get a license to be a cannabis operator?
Um, yeah. There's not a lot of opportunities. There's 70 stores. There are probably a dozen growers. So there are 80, I don't know, you want to say 84 businesses, let's say. Maybe let's pretend there's 100 businesses and there are 3.7 million people in the state. So not everybody's going to get one. So, and if you look at it that way, it would be difficult, but a high barriers to entry. We built out our grow. It cost us probably about $7 million to get started. So you have to
Wait,
borrow
wait, wait,
money
wait,
from.
wait. Why is it what? Who can do that? So a regular person who has a real interest, maybe a boutique kind of interest, can't get into this game.
So I guess you could. There were some opportunities, but when consumers go to purchase the product, they want products that, you know, boutique is nice, but consumers want the coolest looking product, the strongest potency, the best packaging, and it's competitive. It is so competitive nowadays. It's hard to compete. It's hard to compete. But I think the smallest you could get started with is about 2,000 square feet of grow, and you would probably need probably about $3 million if you knew what you were doing, because the
So
lights
is
are
every
expensive.
store a grower? Like every dispensary, do they have their own farm or do they share farm? You know what I mean? Like, do they have
Mhm.
relationships and contracts with farms that do this? Do you know what I mean?
Yep. So there are a lot of they call them vertically integrated when you have your own farm, and that farm is supplying your stores. So you can be vertically integrated. There are probably
Is that
six or
like some
seven.
kind of hyponic thing?
The hydroponics
Yeah.
cultivation. Yeah, a lot of them do. Everybody's in some form of hydroponic nowadays,
Hmm.
where you're delivering the media, or the nutrients to the plant every single day, a large volume of liquid to the plant, to the roots, and you get a healthier plant. The plant grows faster, it yields better, because we're growing indoors, so you have this artificial environment. So you don't want soil in there. So you want to use, hydroponic media, basically things that you can keep clean. You bring in a shovel full of dirt, you're bringing in microorganisms, mold, insects. It's just not feasible inside of a facility like ours because you can't use pesticides. So everybody's using hydroponics, some form.
Wow. And what's the ticket for that?
Big money. Like I said, if you're doing 2,000 square feet, maybe about 3 million, about $4 million. And then if you're starting one of these 149 cultivators, the state of Connecticut had this opportunity. You can pay $3 million and bypass the lottery and open a cultivator. But you had to open, I think, 15,000 square feet of grow space. You had to have the business located in a disproportionately impacted area. You had to have a social equity partner that had 65% equity in the business. The partner could willingly contribute to the costs of the business, but they couldn't be mandated. And that's really important to think about because in our industry, what you sort of have to trade to get money from investors is equity. You know, if somebody wants to know, okay, if I give you $5 million, what am I getting? Well, okay, you own 50% of the business. All right, well, they know that worst comes to worst, they can sell the assets. There's tangible there's tangible collateral that they can sell and liquidate and maybe recover some of their money. But if you're giving 65% of the business away to a partner and that partner can't use those shares to attract investors because they can't sell those shares, you have about 35% equity now that you can go out and shop to investors. But once that 35% is sold to investors and you have nothing left for yourself if you're not the social equity partner. So it's a challenging calculation, challenging prospect if you're following along to raise money for one of these businesses.
So Reno, if you're a Connecticut dispensary or a group or something, can you also have one in Massachusetts and wherever else is legal?
Yep, those are state by state. Yep, whatever limitations caps apply to that particular state, you're bound by. But yeah, Connecticut and Massachusetts, New York, lots of companies have, locations in each one. But you can't grow your stuff in Connecticut and then sell it in Mass. You have to grow it and sell it in the same state,
Oh,
which causes a lot of heartache because if we were a microbrewer, we made beer
I
or
know.
we made
That's what I
cookies.
mean. No one else would be held to that level of standard.
I'm going to tell you some other things that we're held to, and it explains why our costs are so steep. A major one is that so pretend you and I started a pharmaceutical company today.
Hmm.
We would be allowed to manufacture the pharmaceutical. We would create a testing laboratory. We could do our own testing in-house. We would register with the Food and Drug Administration to say, "Hey, we're over here making generic Tylenol." And okay, so we would register with the FDA. They would know that, okay, where our business is located. They would come and audit us and inspect us and review our documents. But basically, we would do all of our own testing in-house. In cannabis, in every single state, it's mandated that cultivators have to use a third-party testing laboratory. So that third-party testing laboratory
They don't
causes
even do that for vitamins
no
and
vitamins can be.
supplements.
Right, those are tested in house. Right. How- are you from the industry?
No, I just know because I started taking supplements, and people are always like, "Oh, you have to go with the companies that voluntarily do third party testing."
Right. Hmm.
But it's
That's
not
right.
mandated to do that. They just do it as a way to show good faith to their customers that we take this very seriously and we care about what you ingest.
That's right. That's right. And they could get the United States, the USP seal of approval. So if they have that, USP certified, that's definitely like an emblem you want to see on a good high quality product. But in our industry, everything is third party tested. So, and this other thing that's happening too is a lot of states, they do this with what we call post market surveillance. Basically, product that's on the market will be purchased by testing groups who will then bring it back to their lab somewhere and test it and report the results. And it's usually a gotcha campaign because cannabis is a plant. It's not a sterile pharmaceutical. We should have no expectation that it should be sterile. It grows in a garden, right? And it's an organism. It's alive, and we're not allowed to spray pesticides. Not that I would ever want to, but we should not be surprised it's going to have elevated microbial or bacterial um, uh, levels. So what's happening now is you see it up in Massachusetts. It's almost like a scandal these days. There are groups that go out and buy product and they have it tested and they're, oh, the results that we're getting now are don't match what's on the certificate of analysis by the manufacturer. And we're concerned. Something's going on. There's something bad happening. And if you know the facts, the cultivator didn't have anything to do with testing the product. The lab came in and pulled the sample, brought it back to the lab, tested it, reported a result, and then the grower registered the product and sold it. And then now a third party group goes and pulls a sample, tests it, gets a result, and the grower has done nothing but grow the product. The laboratories are completely empowered to do the sampling, do the testing, and do the reporting. It's just something that really needs to sort of be clarified with the consumer so they can understand exactly what the process is. Um, and I'm not dissing on the labs. The labs do a great job in Connecticut. They maintain an ISO certification, which is you've seen certified ISO 9000. You've seen it
Hmm.
on businesses. So laboratories can get 17025, I think it is. It's an ISO accreditation, basically that vets the labs and says that they meet certain standards of quality for documentation, quality management systems, etc. So it's about as buttoned up an operation as I've ever seen. We go to third party testing lab. The testing lab goes to a third party ISO certifying agency. We're all beholden to the Department of Consumer Protection. It is completely encircled and safe. So
Tell me, where do you see cannabis going in our state? Do you imagine that it will survive these initial maiden entrees into consumer consumption? Like it's new. I mean it's not new, but it's legal, and now you have people can have dispensaries and all this other kind of stuff. Where does it go? Like what would be ideal for you to see it be successful?
So when the state first passed the RERACA bill, which was a tremendous piece of legislation, and when it happened, especially it was during COVID, and it was a couple days till the session ended, it was a miracle. It was nothing short of a miracle, and they did a great job, the legislature and the governor, pulling that RERACA bill together. And then it had lofty expectations. I think there were some projections that the market would see 800 million to $900 million a year in sales by year three, which would be right around when they expected the market to mature. Um, we are over 3 years in now. I think we're 3.5 years in, and we're around $300 million. We went up
Mm.
to 300 million, and then we leveled off for the past 18 plus months, but we're seeing more and more businesses coming online, and it's just basically more operators um, making more products. We're seeing prices coming down, which is great for the consumers. But so we're putting out slightly more products, but really the market's not growing like we expected it to, and we wanted to grow because there's a three. Oh, uh, um, can you hear me still? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, there is a 3% tax excise. There's a 3% municipality tax that goes to the host community for the community to spend on really worthwhile initiatives. So if we're not seeing those cannabis sales staying in the state, then the communities aren't getting those dollars, those tax dollars, and they're instead going to our neighboring states. And we'd prefer to see them here in our lovely state, if it was up to me. So that's one of the challenges. But I think that back to like we started off, um, people, it's Connecticut had medical marijuana before Massachusetts did, believe that or not. We actually had our program up and running before Mass did because they were mired in litigation. The next thing you know, I think we started sales in September of 2014. Massachusetts started in like, I want to say March, April, or May of 2015. But then adult use happened for Mass, and they were like fired out of a cannon, and they were off to races by 2018. Um, and we were still running a medical program.
Mm.
So it's not a new concept. Like I hear sort of folks in the legislature say, "Well, it's new. We have to give it time." Um, it's been here a long time, just as long as in Massachusetts. Rhode Island did a bang up job when Rhode Island went adult use. They basically said, 3 weeks from now we're going to be adult use, and that was it. They were adult use. They really embraced it. I think that we would need to commit. We need to see marketing and packaging sort of be more sort of consumer friendly. The experience at the dispensaries would need to be a little softer. Um, uh, m- so it has more of consumer appeal because folks love to get in their car and go up to Massachusetts. I've done it. Have you done it yet? Have you gone up to see it?
No.
They're so cool. I don't want to exaggerate. They're fun. It's fun. The packaging and the people, and you're talking to them. There's so many people. Everybody's happy, and it's it's a positive experience. It's only 20 minutes away, half hour. They got a casino up there. There's so much to do in Springfield. It's tough. It's tough.
Well, well, how many years are we in for legality? Like, what is this? 3 years, you said?
January of 2023. Yeah. Well, I
Okay.
guess two and a half. Two and a half.
All right. Okay. So, are you forecasting for the next couple of years? Like, what are you thinking?
Sunny skies. $1 billion, and that's what I hope. That's what I'm hoping for. Um, I we're gonna have to make some changes. Hopefully, I don't know. It's been at the same level now for, like I said, 18 months. It
Mhm.
goes up and it goes down a little bit, and 300 million is where we're gonna end up this year probably. If it doesn't go down a little bit.
Okay.
But hopefully we'll start seeing some changes. There's sort of DCP just created a new department on drug control for cannabis, and they have a new that new department has a manager, and she's very competent. She's got great experience, and she's very intelligent and motivated. So we expect big things coming from the new program manager, and and the DCP as a whole. So fingers crossed, and we're here as resources for them. Of course, we want this to succeed for everybody.
Well, thank you for coming on and giving us a real education on Connecticut's cannabis situation. Keep me posted. Come back on and talk more as it grows and more dispensaries come online and uh, and y'all get this marketing that you want for adult enjoyment.
Yeah, Babs, why don't you come up for a tour? Can you do like a little remote show? We can
I could do
broadcast.
that. Yeah, I might
Yeah.
consider that. I've
All
never
right.
been in a dispensary, so this would be kind of interesting.
Good. We've got one in Bridgeport, one in New Haven, and then we got the grow in Portland. So whichever one you want to do. So we'll talk off air, and then see if we can't piece something together.
Okay. Well, thank you, Reno, and
Thank you for
good
having me.
luck.
Thank you. All right,
All
we'll talk
right.
soon. All right, take
Yes,
care.
we will.
Bye bye.
We will. Bye bye.
I'll see you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Take care.
Harry.
We'll keep